I've been saying for years now that fossil fuel companies are in big trouble. But the big trouble that I expected could be much worse than what I expected. In fact, it could be much, much worse. New York is going to fine fossil fuel companies $75 billion. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. I'm sure you'll know this, but big banks, they're kind of reluctant or extremely reluctant to fund new projects like drilling for more oil or projects that are mining in seas and all this kind of stuff. So it's getting harder for these fossil fuel companies to get the funding they need, especially the smaller companies. Basically, don't be a genius idiot and try and invest in some penny stock oil company or something. They're all in terminal decline. Sure, you might win tomorrow and then you'll lose next week and you end up losing everything. Anyhow, New York is reporting that it will fine fossil fuel companies a total of $75 billion over the next 25 years to pay for damage caused to the climate under a bill Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law on Thursday. The law is intended to shift some of the recovery and adaptation costs of climate change from individual taxpayers to oil, gas, and coal companies that the law says are liable. The money raised will be spent on mitigating the impacts of climate change, including adapting roads, transit, water and sewage systems, buildings, and other infrastructure. Hopefully, also in encouraging people to stop burning fossil fuels and get an electric car. And solar could be good too. New York has fired a shot that will be heard around the world. The companies most responsible for the climate crisis will be held accountable, said New York Senator Liz Krueger, a Democrat who co-sponsored the bill in a statement. Fossil fuel companies will be fined based on the amount of greenhouse gases they released into the atmosphere between 2000 and 2018, to be paid into a climate superfund beginning in 2028. It will apply to any company that the New York Department of Environmental Conservation determines is responsible for more than 1 billion tons of global greenhouse gas emissions. Now, you can apply these same rules to companies like General Motors, to Ford, some of America's biggest car manufacturers. So they should certainly be concerned that they will be liable. Now, remember, in New York, they have laws that are really good laws, right? You're not allowed to sit idling your diesel vehicle, or any vehicle, to be honest, unless it's an EV and there's no emissions. You can't sit and idle it in many places in New York because people are smart enough in New York to know that that causes cancer. It does. If you don't like this information, unsubscribe because you're an idiot. And a lot of people don't, but it's true. It causes cancer. And look at the numbers, guys. I mean, less than 70% of people who get lung cancer actually ever smoked a cigarette. A lot of people getting lung cancer, right? A lot of really bad stuff happens when you breathe in the exhaust emissions from any cars. It doesn't matter if it's got filters on it, it still kills you, right? So really good rule. You don't want to have these idling vehicles. And this happens all the time. New York finds truck drivers, they find pickup truck, they find people that just sit in front of schools. Sitting in front of a school, idling your car. People do this. It's mental. Now, I understand if it's an insanely hot day and you've got to do it for a little bit of time, but people do it for no reason whatsoever. So that's a really good rule. And the rest of the world should follow that rule. I hope they do, because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of, you're walking around and there's people just sitting there in their car for no reason, idling their fossil fuel, their diesel or gasoline powered vehicle. And you know that you're breathing in that stuff and it's bad for you. New York becomes the second state to pass such a law after Vermont passed its own version this summer. The laws are modeled after existing state and federal Superfund laws that require polluters to pay to clean up toxic waste. Repairing damage and adapting for extreme weather caused by climate change will cost New York more than $500 billion by 2050, Krueger said in her statement. Major oil companies made more than $1 trillion in profits since January 2021 and have known since at least the 1970s that the extraction and burning of fossil fuels contribute to climate change, she said. Yeah, well, she's right on that. They have known since the 1970s. Their own scientists told them. Energy companies are expected to file legal challenges to the new law, arguing that it is preempted by federal law regulating energy companies and polluters. Guys, I'm sure there'll be challenges to this. There'll be court cases all over the place. But the truth is, This is another strike in the bow of fossil fuel companies. That they are going to realize the writing's on the wall. New York's doing it. Vermont's doing it. It's going to be in California. As you know, it's obvious it's going to happen in California. It's really only a matter of time before governments all around the world say to themselves, well, we don't have the money to fix these problems. We can't afford it. The governments are like bankrupt all over the world, right? They spend too much. They're riddled with inefficiency. Governments are insane, right? Both sides of the aisle. They are. They're just ridiculously inefficient. They don't have the money, right? They need the money. They've got all this cleanup to do. There's going to be mess everywhere, right? There's no question. Global warming is being caused to some degree. Don't know what the degree, but some degree by fossil fuel companies. So governments will sue these companies. They will force them to pay massive amounts of money. And this is going to happen over the next 10, 20, 30 years. It will be a big problem. If you're invested in a fossil fuel company, if you're invested in BHP, Rio Tinto, any of these big companies, you've got to factor this into your investment decisions. This is coming. This is the kind of thing that governments all around the world will say, hey, look at that. It's worked in New York. It'll work here in California. Everyone says California doing it. And then they're like, well, hang on a minute. Our automotive industry is being destroyed by China. We need some money. Our tax receipts are low. Who can we go after? There we go. Big oil. Now, I think this is good. And I know it sounds like I'm saying it isn't, but it is. It is a good thing. Because it will mean these fossil fuel companies will have to say to themselves, we need to pivot. What can we do? Build more solar farms, build more renewable energies, build more batteries. Basically, they can sell carbon credits back to themselves, maybe. I don't know. But anyhow, they can pivot. They've got a choice. They've got a lot of money. So what do you guys think about this? What do you think about this decision in New York? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Now, regardless of how you feel about it, it is going to happen. But let me know what you think in the comments. In a bizarre decision that doesn't appear to have been initiated by Donald Trump, the United States has decided to triple its nuclear energy capacity. Triple it. With an enormous expansion likely to cost hundreds of billions of dollars. The bizarre turn of events is coming at a time in which solar and batteries combined are cheaper than the cost of any form of fossil fuel energy. And I should point out, I have spoken at numerous events recently on the declining costs of solar, wind and batteries, but particularly solar and batteries. And why I don't think nuclear on a logical basis is necessary.